For me, I've watched one of my older company actually get decimated when the insurers started to change their business model. About our company was doing a lot of personal lines adjusting support, where adjusting companies that were doing personal lines would outsource their reporting, like their transcription for their reporting and for their recorded statements and all of that.
Mostly transcription or original writing as well?
We weren't doing original writing back then, So it was interesting because as the insurers brought in Guidewire and over time on the personal lines built their own claims teams, we saw a lot of our insurance work just evaporate. And then on the personal lines, it's gone a step further where when I speak to adjusting companies, at least in Canada, so we're from Toronto, a lot of the claims process has largely been automated.
Okay.
And so I'm here as an exhibitor on the automation side, trying to understand what the adjusters think is going to happen as we move forward. So I was hoping to hear from you as to what you think is going to happen.
Okay. What I expected, which is nice. Maybe I'm paranoid, but you always wonder, what you're getting yourself into. Anyway, that's what I expected. So, yeah. Personally, first, I should make it clear, we have a small company. Yeah. We have, a dozen employees, and we've certainly seen dip in the amount of work that we get particularly from larger companies, which I think larger insurers are certainly more prone to using that kind of technology. And we've kind of had to focus our efforts on companies that service people that are less prone to want to deal with automation. We do a ton of commercial work. Frankly, commercial buildings and commercial properties, they take a more advanced adjuster. Typically, the owners of commercial buildings are hands off. They either have somebody doing it for them or they do it themselves, but they don't have the kind of time. They don't want to do anything themselves by any means. They want somebody to do it for them. And I think most of the carrier, and we also do a lot of very high-end insurance carriers, companies that insure very expensive homes, wealthy people. And again, wealthy people, they don't have time. They don't want to do it themselves. They want the human experience.
You have Chubb here, right?
Yeah. Chubb, AIG Private Client, Pure Insurance. There's another couple that are getting into it too. And then we do a lot of farm ranch. And that's the extreme. Farmers.
They're not about to install an app.
No, they're not. We're in Colorado where farming is very huge. And so our best customers are one of those three. That's not all we do, but they're certainly our best customers. They represent the largest amount of our customer base. I shouldn't say they're our best customers. All of our customers seem to be pretty loyal to us and tend to be loyal to independent adjusters because the smaller companies, I think, really do find that using individuals makes them feel unique and I don't want to use the word old-fashioned, but it makes them almost like going to a small market to get your food.
It's the personalized approach.
And, a lot of these insureds we know even the insureds will end up seeing multiple times in 10 years or whatever. I've owned at least one of my offices since 2007. And, there's plenty of people in our area that we've had their claim 3 or 4 times or 6 or 7 times on the big farm ranches that tend to have a lot of claims. They've got 15 houses. They've got all these different grain bins and equipment sheds, and things happen.
Yeah, it's just the risk, the nature of the risk.
It's the nature of the risk. And so as far as automation and those things, I don't know if automation will ever no, I shouldn't say that. It absolutely will reach into there in different ways. I think that's inevitable, but I definitely think it'll take more time. And I don't know if they'll ever, in the short term, in the next 20 years, I don't know if they'll be able to take the human experience out of it for those groups.
Let me put it a different way.
Okay.
So you're looking at it from the perspective of an insured trying to automate the adjusting experience.
Yes. In this part of the conversation,
so
yes.
Have you looked at your operations and said, can we provide some level of technology AI automation to make our internal operations more efficient?
Yeah, for sure. We've already experimented with writing reports using AI. And I have one adjuster who's very techie, who's younger, and seems like he's spending some time doing it. Again, we service, when we're doing hail claims, we're in Colorado. Hail is a huge part of our base of work. Last year was a huge hail year. We had a record year for our company because it was just unbelievable amounts of claims that we got in. Hail claims, absolutely. That's the perfect time to be able to use reporting that is AI generated, at least partial. Editing it might take a little bit of editing, but, we had just turning over claims one after another.
Yeah, it's the volume in a cat situation.
Yeah, for sure. And those situations, I think it's ideal. I think it would, I don't know that as a company, it's a little bit difficult to promote that only because we let our adjusters do their thing. And that's a hard thing. It's a very hard thing to explain. And that's more of a personal, that's how I manage. I find that happy adjusters stay around, happy adjusters perform. And I've been in independent insurance adjusting for 25 years. And I've learned that really good independent adjusters are a little bit quirky.
Yes.
The ones that are really, really good are very rarely a fit in a box.
Yes.
They're independent and they're really good at being independent. My best 3 adjusters are unbelievably good at their jobs. Not one of them likes to be managed. Quite the opposite. You give them a stack of work and they do it. Offering things, I can offer things, but I would never say you need to be doing this to be more efficient.
I agree.
I just wouldn't do that. I've offered them. It's funny. We just bought 2 more offices last year. The office that we bought, the one guy, he dictates all his reports. And he has this little old lady transcribe his reports. He's a very old-fashioned person. His reports are significantly longer than everybody else's reports because he's so comfortable talking. They're too long. Okay, to be frank, they're too long. They're too involved. And I'll comment on that in a second. But when we absorbed him, and even when I started, the person that I bought the very first office from, he dictated all of his reports. I didn't. I typed 75 words a minute, and I use a lot of copy and pasting, and I can get through a report in, pretty efficient. Certainly not as fast as they do it, but the differences were marginal for me. And dictating never felt normal to me. It didn't feel good because I didn't learn like that. Well, once we absorbed these other 2 companies, I thought, I'm really going to push dictating. Okay. I'm going to tell the guys, listen, we're going to get a dictating service. You're going to be able to use this. You can be faster. You can make your reports a little longer. I just tried my best to get them to do it because the one guy that we absorbed was doing it so efficiently. And one of them ever did it. And I tried and not one. And I even tried doing a few myself. And it's funny because I don't handle very many claims, maybe 10 or 15 a year now, just under weird circumstances. And I found that, no, I'll never do that. And that brings me to the guy that does, his reports are overdone. And I've tried so hard to get him to consolidate because he can talk. You can talk so much.
Yeah, we've done 45-minute reports about nothing.
For sure. And the thing is that every single one of the desk adjusters we work for is overworked. Every single one of them. And they have to read it.
Yes.
And they have to absorb the important parts of that report so they can react, however it may be, or make a decision, whatever it may be. And they don't have time to read a 4-page report or 5-page report on a hail claim. Okay.
Especially when there's hundreds of them in the same day.
Correct. They don't. Frankly, even a water loss, a $50,000 water loss where you have a pipe break upstairs and it flooded 3 levels of a house, or maybe even $100,000 water loss, a 4 or 5-page report is overkill. And telling the old adjuster that we absorbed that it just blows his mind. It angers him, okay, because he's so comfortable doing that. Getting a very concise report that was probably 2.5 pages that provided all the information that you needed, but didn't necessarily go down all the paths of maybes and could be's is far more efficient. Well, I think that's where AI will struggle to take our place completely, or to be used super efficiently, simply because the unique nature of every loss, particularly on a commercial building with commercial custom finishes, a premium house with custom finishes in Aspen, a $10 million house in Aspen is something that is totally off the wall, and there's nothing normal about it. And farm ranch. Now, farm ranch you might be able to do a little bit more of, but I think when you're talking about the claims that keep us in business, well, there's two sides. Hail keeps us in business. So absolutely. I think we're crazy not to try to use what we can to make a production line out of claims that are production line worthy claims. I think that's absolute, and I think that we should do that.
Yeah. That's where I'm going with this. I think where I'm going with this is, if the adjusting industry does not learn to look at the patterns in the processes and use AI or automation in some way to enable speedier processing, more efficient processing, then, what insurers have done in the personal lines will start to sort of, they've started from the bottom and it's going to start creeping up. And I think the adjusting space and the adjusters really need to take a hard look at the operations and look. And I was speaking to Peter earlier today, and we were talking, he said, well, we're smaller companies. We don't have the budget. Budget might have been an issue 4 years ago. It's no longer an issue, right? Because there are high security services that are purely usage based, assisting small and medium-sized businesses in bringing in automation where there's no upfront investments, right? It's just purely usage-based. And so I do think production lining a high volume kind of service would make sense. Because I was looking up that you put a training program together for flood claims as well.
Yes.
Right? And so I think the patterns the patterns in hail, all of that, there is something to be said for looking at it.
It's interesting. Flood is a little different animal. Even when we first started doing flood in 2003, flood had a requirement of the first report to be in 10 days. Mm-hmm. Well, that was really odd to catastrophe adjusters. First of all, we didn't do reports. Catastrophe adjusters did scope notes and log notes and put them into a system, and that was that. We didn't write a report. We didn't know what a report was. I'll never forget, I was a manager at Katrina, and I'll never forget a guy coming up to me who was a daily claims adjuster that happened to work that storm, and he says, Jason, when does our first report have to go? Okay, I'm a 10-year supervisor. I'm supposed to be smart and the boss and stuff. And I says, what's a report? And he just looked at me like I was a complete idiot, and I'll never forget the interaction. And at the time, it's so weird that stuck with me. But the truth is I'd never done a report. In 10 years, I'd worked for mostly State Farm and farmers, and we didn't do reports. We did log notes. So when he said that, it was weird. Well, then I learned how to do flood claims and realized that, okay, State Farm did not train us to write reports. But they gave us this tick sheet that we could fill out, and it served as a first report. And the automation could do a great job on getting a first report in within 10 days. Now, it all blew up in our faces, and I'm not going to get into why, but the first report is basically
I was there.
I was there. There's this much water. There is coverage because of this.
Yeah. And I will get back to you in 30 days on the next.
Exactly. And so that kind of thing is a yes. Now, as far as my company is concerned, we run on such tight margins. Yeah. I mean, I'm still not using claim system, file tracker, or any. I still don't use it. It's just not budget friendly. We've got a great system that works great. I've looked into what it can do for my company, and what it can do for my company is make things a little bit more transparent. But the thing is that the people I hire, I never check if they're put in a report on in time, because the people that succeed with us don't have to be babysat at all. In fact, quite the opposite. they're the guys that, and I keep going back to that they would be livid if they had to do any part of file track. They've got their
own process,
They've
their
got
own
their
system.
process, exactly. And now, on a personal level, I think if you approach them and said, here's how you can automate your reporting, if it was a truly efficient way, they might do that. They might. I don't know. As a company, adding in any expense, I mean, $5 seems like so little, but $5 to every claim, and then another $7 for a file track, and then another $20. It just goes on and on, the things that we can do to be more efficient. And our problem is we don't have enough claims. I don't have enough claims to say I need to be more efficient.
What if it brought down your operations cost, like actually increased your margin?
Well, you can't increase my margin if I don't get more claims. You know, frankly, we have to maximize how much we charge on every claim. I mean, our ceiling is, the amount we make is controlled by the amount of work we can get. And if we do 1,500 claims in a year, the guys don't make any more money on those 1,500 claims, whether they are more efficient or not, because we don't have more we can do.
But the company gets better margins, doesn't it?
I mean, I don't see it. No, I mean, maybe the adjuster might see it. If he is saving, we can't charge an hourly rate that we're not doing, On
the administrative side, do you write off administrative costs?
Do we write them off?
Like on the reporting side, for example, the adjuster uses, remember the adjuster that does dictation?
Yes.
Does he bill the client for that, for the admin that does his typing, or does he write it off? Does he have to absorb the cost? That's basically
he absorbs the cost.
So does your company absorb are there non-billable activities that you do for the handling of a claim?
No, we bill them on everything we do. And frankly, so here would be the issue, okay? This is really good to understand. If I can build a report using automation in 10 minutes, okay, am I going to bill them for half an hour?
No, you could have a flat rate.
Yeah. Okay. Now all of a sudden
you're having to negotiate billing.
Now I've got to negotiate billing with them, which they hate.
I know.
And I hate.
Negotiation is always a slippery slope.
That is the absolute worst part of my job, except having to sit through things like this. Quote me on that.
No, we'll edit it out.
That's just me. I'm not. I dropped out of college because I was leaning myself in being in living in a downtown setting and being in meetings and going to conventions.
You didn't want to be here.
That's not. I was not built for that.
You like being out in the field.
I'm still not built for that. I'm very, very good at being out in the field and being an effective adjuster. And I do an okay job at running a company. But if anybody saw the way that I ran a company, they just go, whoa, because I'm much more this, and behind the scenes, I hide that well. So, but what I was trying to say is that our ceiling is so hard, and unless we're going to try and bill for something, the value of something versus the actual, it makes it difficult. With some companies, we bill by the hour. With other companies, we bill on an escalating fee schedule. I can write a hail report without any automation. I can do a hail report with, we'll say, a $30,000 claim where the roof is totaled, the gutters are totaled, two sides are hit with siding. I can write that report in 12 or 15 minutes, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. Anyway.
It's interesting because I've worked with the legal industry and it's the same thing. The billable hour.
And so here's what happens. Okay. My company is small. We don't do a ton of claims, right? An adjuster might only do 150 or 175 claims a year. You still make a very, very good living doing.
Because you're major loss adjusters.
Correct. Okay. 175 claims. If they can save 25 minutes which I think is, or 30 minutes. We'll say 30 because that's a nice, easy. They can save 30 minutes in the life of the claim. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. We're never going to do that on the 80% of our claims are done within 3 reports, maybe 90 even. 50% of our claims, 40% of our claims are done within 1 report. So if he doesn't, we'll say 200 claims. And 40% of those claims, he does it in 1 report. If he saves 15 minutes, imagining he can save 15 minutes is difficult because he still has to edit.
Yes.
There's no way that he's going to get away with it.
You never should.
No, you have to know what's out there. You cannot risk.
Nope.
You know, so if it takes him 10 or 12 minutes to do it automated versus 20 minutes to write it normal, he saved 8 minutes on 40% of his claims, which is 80 of his claims. And 80 of his claims times 8 minutes is not a substantial amount of time to save, to spend money on, to save it.
And it's also the process change. It's the effort to change the way you do things, right? I think
it's that too. And then it's also the billing. You know, is he going to make the decision to bill for something on the ones that are hourly that he didn't do?
Yes.
You know, and you know what? He will. The truth is that I'm not going to pretend that that I'm out there charging the exact minutes on my reports, because I can build a 2-page beautiful hail report that is a work of art that every single desk adjuster absolutely loves getting in 15 or 20 minutes. And, you know, I got news. That's not the norm, you know, but I don't know that we could ever justify saving that amount of marginal time on the small level.
Yes.
On our level, particularly because ours are so custom.
Yes.
I mean, ours are custom, and that's a huge hurdle on the automation side. I don't know how huge it is. I'm ignorant on that. But to the layman, it would seem to me that the more difficult and complex the claim, the more difficult it is to get the report perfect. And I could be confusing things, you know, thinking only reporting, right?
There's more to the process.
There's more to the process. But on the surface, it seems like that would be the most useful. And now, so anyway, my point is that I think automation, this is terrible to tell you this, I think automation is the opposite of what we can do as a smaller company to service the customers that will keep us in business and will need the humans to do their adjusting. For the specific reason is what I told you right in the beginning, who we target, how we target them, and why they will still use us, love using us. And now, last year we had the huge hail year, and the same customers that use us for all this other hard stuff use us for all these simple hail claims as well. But again, we knocked them out. You did great. Are we really going to say, okay, we're going to do it for that amount? Maybe one will. Maybe 2 of my adjusters of my dozen adjusters will. Maybe they will. We're not going to pay for it. We're not going to push them. Trying to get them to do it, that horrifies me, right? Brad's my best adjuster. This guy, he's an unbelievable good and efficient, extremely efficient. When I try to manage him, it is like pulling teeth. And all 3 of my best guys are exactly the same way. That's like pulling teeth. And if I can just imagine presenting to those 3 in particular, presenting to them how they're going to automate, I could never imagine. Now, my worst 2 or 3 adjusters, I think they'd love the idea. I think they'd love the idea. But I can't have them doing that because right now they're already not doing a good enough job. They're already struggling. They try to shortcut everything.
But do you think that some level of a guided flow would actually help them do their job better?
It's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. No, that's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, one in particular, no, he's just not real bright, and that guy doesn't do a lot of work, but sometimes we have to use him. He's the overflow guy. The other 2, they're pretty much full-time, and it might help them. But my resources, and see, that's the thing. And you got to understand something. I'm kind of new to this, okay? So I might not be giving you a good view.
No, I'm curious because I think to me it's important to understand all aspects, right? Like there are smaller players, bigger players, and it's just.
And so when you have a dozen, right now the small guys like us, and I know the two of them today that are very similar to my company, we feel like we are definitely hanging on to our little world. And to do that, we just have to set ourselves apart. And I'm not sure that automating anything, I think automating things doesn't set you apart. Yeah, I think it makes you more efficient on a big level. And I think the medium-sized companies and the large companies, I think, I see those big companies and they use file tracking systems and they get so much out of it, okay? And they have a lot of loose ends, okay? If you have 100 adjusters working, okay, I just told you I have 3.
Yeah.
I have like a dozen adjusters. I have one that's, okay, I got 2 that they're good.
But
okay?
not good enough.
But they're barely good enough to be called McMillian adjusters. Barely. Okay. And I have to work hard to make sure their work is up to snuff. And then I have 9 adjusters that almost have to do nothing. I support them. I am involved in the very difficult claims because we work them as a team a little bit to make sure that we're doing really, really good work and making those hard claims really, really nice and making them, we do peer reviews on those things, kind of like engineers do. And the companies love it. They just love that they're getting that kind of attention and that kind of input on the difficult claims. But other than that, they're very easy to manage, those guys. And I guarantee you, if you talk to everybody out here, everybody has their group and their percentages inside that group. When I worked for Everals, I'd manage 40 or 50 adjusters at a time on a big storm. And, 15 of them I didn't have to worry about at all. 20 of them I had to medium, and the other 15, so they took up 90% of my time. To automate them, I would do anything to automate them and give them a way to do that, because that's 15 people and I'm one guy. And I can't do that. I can't keep up with their inefficiency and their incapable ways. I can't do that. But when I'm on a level of 12 adjusters, and frankly, one of them barely gets anything, those other 2, they don't get a ton of work either. And it's just hard to imagine on my level adding more expense of any kind because we're running thin. And again, it's because our ceiling with this size is so low, man. Our ceiling is low. And, I think people would be stunned to know that when I started, there were 8 different McMillian Claim Services in Colorado. There were 8 different owners. Okay. I bought the first one in 2007 and I did all the claims. Okay. Which is not that many claims, a few hundred claims a year. And then I had one overflow. My buddy, Brad, who now is full time, but when he wasn't working storms, he would do claims for me and stuff like that. But it was a few hundred claims or whatever. And that's what I do. Okay. Then we got Colorado Springs and I was doing those too. And now I was really working a lot and that was lame. And then we got Fort Collins and Greeley. Well, now I added a person and now I'm having more other people do the work. But as we've grown to getting all these things, now we've got, a dozen employees and I just don't make that much more money.
That's interesting because I think
I made almost as much money when I was just running claims on my own, owning one little office. Now, my whole world is worth more. We don't make a ton of money. I mean, it's amazing. Now, might be a bad businessman and I might be the exception.
I think it's the operations. That it's not about the adjusting service. It's about, I honestly think it's the administration. It is the actual operations where as you bring in more offices, there's an opportunity to amalgamate the operations.
Yeah, the difference is just the ceiling and the amount of claims we can do. My wife still processes every single claim we do. She processes every single claim that we do. She edits, she does everything on every single claim. When it comes in, she puts it in the format that each company wants because every company wants a different format. She bills it. She puts in, she does all those things. She is file track, but I mean, it's 1,500 claims.
And it works for you.
Or 1,200 claims or whatever. I don't even know how many we do, but it's not 5,000.
Yeah.
Okay. 5,000, that's a different world. And I will tell you that I'm not as good on Xactimate as I should be. but that is hard to try to put more work into, at my age, into something newer that I think would be marginal given the size of us.
Yeah.
That size.
What I'm hearing though, based on, the comment you made earlier about when you're managing a larger junior team, or when you have people that are still learning or might not be the best at complex claims, there is an opportunity.
There's absolutely an opportunity. As the medium-sized companies, I think they would be crazy not to. They're also turning and burning claims and working on small fee schedules.
Yes. It's fixed fee schedules.
These small fee schedules, man, there's nothing better than being able to fit the guys. And this is the truth. The guys that are the super efficient, getting everything as simplified as possible and as streamlined as possible, never work at McMillian Claim Service.
Because you know what? Those people, so there's a certain kind of adjuster and a certain kind of employee that fits in a process, like a heavily process-driven production line company. And then there's a certain kind of employee that's very, very good at the complex stuff. And it's the same, like I run a software company. It's the same with developers. The best of them, it's like managing a difficult child.
Right.
You gotta figure out how to manage each one of them differently to get the most you can out and help them rise to their potential. Right? Like it's interesting because I have 3 senior devs, same thing, right? And then there's the juniors who really benefit from the process, and then they develop and hone their skills, and then they rise above the process where they excel. And some of them might never rise. So they'll stay there. But there is opportunity.
And it's funny because when hiring is very, very difficult and challenging because I usually have to dip into the pool of catastrophe adjusters. The catastrophe adjusters need to be as streamlined and as efficient as possible.
Yes.
That is so important to them.
It's a speed.
Yeah, it is. And especially on the smaller fee schedules. And so when I have to dip into that pool, it's always the training that I do is to untrain them. Okay? Slow down. Okay, slow down. We're not just trying to get this claim closed. I promise you we're not. We want it done really, really well. That's why we will continue to succeed. And hopefully hearing from somebody like me will at least add insight.
It does.
Because I want to be useful, but at the same time, I also don't know that. And you know what? Again, too, I don't know that I am a model. Our company is a model of efficiency or example.
No, it's still like you deliver services that require a specific skill.
It's a specific skill set.
It's a specific skill set, right?
It is so hard. The guys that work for me, they're such badasses. I mean, forgive me for saying that. I'm not bragging. It's the real, this year I've spent more time than I've ever spent going and visiting our customers, sitting down to lunch with them. That's all I've done this whole spring. And I get the exact same feedback every time. Because I ask them, what can we do better? What are we doing wrong? What can I do better? And the answer is always the same. No, you don't need to change anything. It's just make sure you keep the quality. Don't let that quality slip. It's
interesting because, one of the things that the adjusting industry says is a lot of the best adjusters are aging out.
Yes.
And there's not enough good new talent coming in. And I think that's where tech and wizards and things like that.
I could go on and on about how the evolution of State Farm, I could go on and on about the evolution of State Farm. And it's not something that I like. It's sad because we were the best. I mean, State Farm, their storm operation is a work of art. It really was. There was a lot of really, really good adjusters doing really good work. It's just evolved. It's just different. And I think automation's great for that. And
it's because as the volumes.
You have to realize how bad the pool is now. There's a big section of that's not very good at the job. And I think that automation would elevate them instantly.
Yeah. Because you get the output you want by guiding the people to move in a certain flow.
Absolutely.
It's like transcription. It's like, because it's the same with transcription. Yeah. It's the same in every industry.
Yeah. It's great. And I think it would be good because the quality has gone down. And I think automation can help it go up,
Yeah. It alleviates, it's actually the combination of a junior adjuster
Sure.
or a not very skilled adjuster with a guided flow designed by senior people like yourself would actually raise the results.
I absolutely think it would. Absolutely. And it would make managers' jobs easier. I think the managers right now, I know a lot of people that, you know, I know a dozen managers that aren't managers anymore, you know, that are really good managers, that good at managing adjusters. They're just like, I am not doing
It kind of reminds me of like our teams. So yes, I'll close off on that.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.